All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our Fish4Thought. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone joining us from different parts of the world today. Thank you very much for being here for our session today, held in celebration with World Fisheries Day. It's a moment each year for us to recognize the crucial role that fishers, farmers, and aquatic food systems play. So today we're bringing you our third webinar under the Asia-Africa BlueTech Superhighway Knowledge Exchange series. A bit of background on our AABS and South-South collaboration. So one of the goals of AABS is to enable effective and equitable coastal conservation and fisheries management. This is done by assessing, strengthening, and scaling incentives for coastal stewardship. So in this webinar, we will unpack AABS research and policy work on social protection in Bangladesh and Zanzibar. And moderating our session today, we'd like to introduce scientist Jessica Fuller from WorldFish. Jessica?
Hello, everyone.
In our speaker panel, we have Annabelle Bladon from the International Institute for Environment and Development, Professor Dr. Samiya Selim from the University of Liberal Arts, Bangladesh, Shaila Rahman from Key Asia, and Julius Francis from the Western Indian Ocean Marine Science Association. Now, before we begin, I'd like to remind our audience members to please switch off your cameras and microphones during this session. You may use the chat box to converse, and we will give you a chance to voice your questions and commentaries when we get to the Q&A session. Now, with that, I'll hand over things to Jessica, who will give a short introduction on ABS. Jessica, over to you.
So welcome to this Fish4Thought session on incentivizing coastal stewardship through social protection, the cases of Bangladesh and Zanzibar. I'm just going to give a quick overview of the Asia-Africa BlueTech Superhighway project, also AABS, and it was originally planned as a 7-year, £44.5 million project that is delivered in 2 phases and funded through the UK's Climate and Ocean Adaptation and Sustainable Transition Coast program of the Blue Planet Fund. AABS harnesses South-South collaboration to assess, adapt, and scale evidence-based innovations and models for delivering nature-positive impact through aquatic food systems. The project is implemented by WorldFish in collaboration with partners and aims to transform the livelihoods of coastal communities across Asian and African countries, particularly for women and youth. There are 3 key project goals. The first one is to test innovations, generate evidence, and scale technologies, tools, and approaches. And in doing so, we hope to improve food and nutrition security by increasing aquatic food production by up to 500,000 metric tons, create increased employment and income opportunities for 300,000 people, at least half of whom are women, using nature-based solutions, and restore and sustainably manage marine and coastal resources to mitigate and help coastal communities adapt to climate change. As I mentioned, the AABS project is part of the UK government's International Climate Finance for Climate Change Mitigation and Adaptation. This is part of the Blue Planet Fund, which aims to protect and enhance marine ecosystems through the conservation and sustainable management of ocean resources to reduce poverty in developing countries. The COAST program aims to improve vulnerable coastal communities' adaptive capacities and resilience to climate change and increase their prosperity for a more sustainable management of their coastal environment. And AABS thus aims to improve food and nutrition security, create increased employment and income opportunities using nature-based solutions, and sustainably manage marine and coastal resources. The work of AABS is delivered by 4 work packages. They're synergistic work packages that assess, adapt, and scale evidence-based methods across different contexts in Asia and Africa. The first work package is Digital Coasts, which aims to co-create and scale contextualized digital information systems for small-scale fisheries and coastal management. They have integrated multi-trophic aquaculture, which aims to adapt and implement INTA tailored to local contexts in Asia and Africa. We've got climate smart technologies for reducing aquatic food loss and waste by scaling affordable and accessible climate smart food preservation, processing, and storage technologies to reduce aquatic food loss and waste. And finally, we have the Incentives for Coastal Conservation and Fisheries Management, which we're presenting today, which aims to assess, strengthen, and scale incentives for more effective and equitable coastal conservation and fisheries management. The phase one, so the current phase that we're in operates in 5 different countries: in Nigeria, Tanzania, Kenya, Mozambique, and Bangladesh. And today we'll be hearing from case studies in Tanzania and Bangladesh. So in this edition of Fish4Thought, WorldFish's knowledge sharing series, we will explore how social protection is incentivizing social stewardship in Bangladesh and Zanzibar. We will hear from experts and practitioners as they share real-world experiences, research insights, and emerging opportunities to align social protection, conservation, and sustainable blue economies. We'll hear from Annabelle Bladon from the International Institute for Environment and Development, from Samiya Selim from the University of Liberal Arts in Bangladesh, and from Julius from the Western Indian Ocean Marine Science Association in Zanzibar. So with that, I'd like to invite Annabelle to give the first of the presentation, and I will open up the slides imminently.
Jessica. Hi, everyone. I'm Annabelle. I am a senior researcher at IIED, where I lead our work on aquatic food systems. And I'm just going to give you a very short intro to this topic and some context before our main speakers today. So IIED and partners have been collaborating with WorldFish under AABS with the goal of enabling more effective and more equitable coastal conservation and fisheries management through assessing, strengthening and scaling incentives for coastal stewardship. Today we're just going to focus on one set of tools for doing so, which is social protection. Next slide, please. First,
do you see this?
Yep. Yes, thanks.
Yeah.
So what exactly do we mean by coastal stewardship? Building on work published by Nathan Bennett and others on local environmental stewardship, we're viewing coastal stewardship as the protection or responsible use of the coastal environment in pursuit of environmental and/or social outcomes. So actions including conservation, restoration, and fisheries management that are taken by individuals, groups, or networks with various motivations and levels of capacity to do those actions. Now, the challenge is that local people tend to foot the cost of these actions with often limited support. So when it comes to participation in and compliance with marine conservation and fisheries management measures, the costs that they impose on local people can undermine their effectiveness. Now, this framework for environmental stewardship identifies incentives as a key leverage point through which stewardship can be promoted. Our focus under this project has been on positive economic incentives to limit scope, but there are also a whole array of non-economic incentives and disincentives at play too. And there are a range of different tools that can be used to provide positive economic incentives, or at least different concepts. So we've been breaking these down into subsidies, market-based instruments, rights-based measures, and social protection. Next slide, please. So before we get into it, I just want to make sure we're all on the same page about social protection. So it's defined as the set of policies, systems, and programs that aim to prevent or protect people from poverty and vulnerability. And it can be provided through social assistance, which is designed for low-income households, social insurance, which is contributory, so for formal workers, social services, so benefits like childcare, and then labour market interventions, which are designed to protect and support workers specifically. This typology focuses on formal social protection, so that which is government-backed and guided by legal frameworks. I want to flag as well the importance of informal or semi-formal social protection, so that which is provided by individuals, community-based organisations, religious organisations, and NGOs, which can be really crucial, especially in the context of weak formal systems. Next slide. Social protection can also play a role in environmental stewardship. So just to give you a bit of context on the work that AABS has built on, IIED has been working with the World Bank for 5 years or so on Blue Social Protection, which is an initiative and an intersectoral approach which broadly aims to protect people, fish, and food. Our entry point for this work has been the challenge of managing fisheries for sustainability specifically. And this conceptual framework outlines how social protection can be used to promote sustainable and productive fisheries, and particularly small-scale fisheries. So just to really briefly summarize, we see three main opportunities for social protection to play a role. Firstly, it can help to enable and incentivize fisheries actors to register themselves and their activities, providing data essential for fisheries management. Secondly, it can help to create the enabling conditions for sustainability by reducing overall vulnerability and enhancing resilience of local people. And third, it can be used to provide direct incentives for specific stewardship actions that support fisheries policy objectives. Now, although our focus has been on fisheries, this approach can be adapted and expanded to other social ecological systems, coastal systems, aquatic food systems, etc., to deliver similar benefits. And so under AABS, we've been exploring how social protection is already being used and how it could be better used to incentivize coastal stewardship more broadly. Next slide. So the AABS work that our speakers are going to talk about wasn't specifically focused on social protection, but rather the objective was to assess and strengthen the institutional, policy and legal frameworks underpinning incentives for coastal stewardship in our target countries. So for these assessments, we developed an analytical framework building on methods outlined in this Blue Social Protection Handbook that was published earlier this year, and which provides guidance on conducting rapid assessments across the social protection and fisheries sectors. So this framework guides users to map key actors, institutions, strategies, policies, and legislation of relevance to coastal stewardship in a country. So looking across not only fisheries and social protection, but also marine conservation and blue economy. It guides assessments of their strengths, weaknesses, and coherence. And the framework also indicates where specific tools such as key informant interviews and focus group discussions would be helpful to answer certain questions. And it guides the identification of opportunities to better leverage and strengthen these frameworks to support incentive-based approaches to coastal stewardship. So these assessments have now been completed in 3 countries. Policy recommendations have been identified, strategies and action plans have been developed, and our partners are now working hard to support implementation of those recommendations. So just to say, in Zanzibar, our partnership is with WIOMSA, and in Bangladesh, we're working on this with the University of Liberal Arts, Bangladesh, and Key Asia. And the reason we're focusing on Bangladesh and Zanzibar today is because social protection came through really strongly from both of these countries as a set of tools with promise. But the country contexts are very different. So in Bangladesh, formal social protection has been used for more than a decade to incentivize vulnerable households to comply with fisheries regulations. But there are challenges and there are also new opportunities emerging. In Zanzibar, efforts have really just begun to explore the potential of formal social protection in incentivizing coastal stewardship, although informal mechanisms are already integral to coastal resource management and conservation. So we thought this webinar could be an opportunity for us to come together, identify common challenges and opportunities in connecting social protection to coastal stewardship, and to pull out some lessons of relevance for a wider audience. So thank you. With that, I'm going to hand over to our first speaker, Julius, who we work with at WIOMSA.
Good morning, good afternoon. Okay, next slide, please. I'll provide a little bit of context on what we have done in Zanzibar. Okay, Zanzibar is one of the countries, one of the few countries in Africa that has identified blue economy as one of the priority issue for its economic development. And within the blue economy policy, fisheries and aquaculture has been prioritized as one of 5 priorities. And we have also environmental conservation as a cross-cutting issues. We also know that the coastal communities are highly dependent on coastal and marine resources, and this is in relation to their involvement in tourism, fisheries, seaweed farming, and also mangrove harvesting. We do also, and I'll talk about this a bit later, have policies, laws and regulations, strategies and plans related to the fisheries and environmental conservation that have been enacted to deal mainly with the issues of sustainability. And then also we do have laws related to the social protection, and this originates from the constitution of the country that ensure that the equity and people have access to the basic services that are provided. But also there is a recognition that fisheries dependent communities have special needs and are vulnerable to different variability. Next slide, please.
Yes. Can you see the slide?
Yes, and we have a number of challenges, and these challenges are discussed in terms of the relevance of fisheries management and coastal marine conservation, social protections, and also coast-cutting. In relation to the fisheries management, the main challenge is one is there is no recognition of social protections as one of the incentive-based approaches. There's also absence of a system to assess and compensates fishery for loss of income for different reasons, be it due to natural hazards or be it due to protected area or closure systems. In relation to the social protections, there's the main challenge is the low coverage of the existing social protections systems, inadequate benefits, limited implementation of the social protection policy, which is quite innovative in many ways, but there's very limited implementation. Then there's also an issue that most of the activities under the social protections are project-based, and so the issue of sustainability is of concern. And then there are issues related to which we categorize as a challenge that we categorize as cross-cutting, issues of finances, but also issues related to the weak implementation, and also limited or inadequate coordinations among different interministerial committees, particularly for the issue that are cross-cutting. Next slide, please. Then there are several opportunities which we could build on. We do have institutions from the local level to the central government level that are dealing with the conservation. They are dealing with the fisheries management, but also they are dealing with social protections. There's also, as I mentioned earlier, laws, policies that are dealing with these three issues. Social protection is increasingly reflected in the fishery-related legal framework. There have also been different initiatives by the government, by partners and non-government organizations that are providing support to the fisheries in terms of social assistance. But also, the fisheries survey does include some information that could be used in assessing the effectiveness of different management initiatives. And importantly, there is also a program, social protection program, which is known as Productive Social Safety nets, and it has started reaching a number of fishers in the next slide, please. Based on these challenges and and opportunities, we have some recommendations. The first one is formal recognition, because we have seen in different laws like the blue economy policies, the fisheries policies, and this implementation plan, even the environmental and the forest, that they do include some aspect of social protections. So it's very important that there is a formal recognition that social protection is one of the incentive-based approach, and then from there it follows the discussion on how to operationalize it. Develop a system to assess income related risk, income loss due to fishers that are experiencing due to different initiatives related to protected area, related to the enclosure system that they're developing on their own, or some economic development. It's very important that the fisheries, the Ministry of Blue Economy and Fisheries, and the Tanzania Social Action Plan develop a very close collaboration, because to increase the benefits that the fishers can access from the Tanzania Social Action Plan. We have to expand the marine frame surveys that are supposed to be carried every 2 years, to include information that can also be used to assess the effectiveness of the cost of this initiative on fishers and other coastal communities. And also we need to mobilize resources and monitor the effectiveness of these initiatives on fishers. Next. So what we have done, we've produced, as Annabelle said earlier, produced an assessment report and an action plan, and that has been circulated to the senior government officials, and they've provided input. This was done in September and October, but we had an election in October, so we are having new officials being appointed now. So we want to circulate it to the new officers, and then early next year we will have a validation workshop that will involve government officials from the Ministry of Fisheries, Environment and Social Protection, together with the partners and community organization, to discuss the action plan and see how it can be operationalized. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Julius. I'd like to invite Samiya, please, to present on the incentive-based work she's been doing in Bangladesh.
Thank you, Jessica. You can hear me okay, yes?
Yes.
Great. Right, so thank you. So I'm Samiya. I'm a professor at University of Liberal Arts Bangladesh, and I've been working on this AABS IIED project for the last 1 year on the strengthening incentive-based approaches, and I'll be sharing some of that experience today. So next slide. So just to give a very brief context on Bangladesh, again, it's very much reliant on its fisheries resources, high biodiversity, marine resources, and at the same time, more than 1 million people there are dependent on small-scale fisheries and aquaculture for their livelihoods. Nearly 90% of these marine capture in Bangladesh comes from these small-scale fisheries. At the same time, the country faces various challenges. It's one of the most climate vulnerable countries in the world. So it's there's important sectors here, but at the same time, a lot of pressure on the systems. So as a result, both livelihoods, conservation, and development of the blue economy are also very important here. So just to pick up on what Annabelle mentioned, Bangladesh has been leveraging social protection, in particularly one scheme, the rice compensation scheme, where, for more than 10 years now, it has been utilized for incentives for fisheries management and conservation. So, so we're building up on some of the work that has been happening in Bangladesh with social protection and coastal conservation and fisheries management. Next slide. So again, as mentioned, we're trying to balance here livelihood and as well as ecosystem conservation, and two things that are being leveraged here: incentives to bring about behavioral change. So in the context of Bangladesh, there's a fishing ban at certain times of the year. How do you address compliance? So at the same time, social protection has been used to buffer during shocks and stressors on the systems, and can help build resilience. So, we're trying to bring these two together to see how it can be leveraged better for fisheries management and conservation. Next slide. So again, as even though this, there has been program running, for 10 years or so, there are several challenges, and we try to address them and see how they, how can we do that? And the challenges, we have narrowed down to 3 different categories. So one is the fact that there's access. So who's able to access the incentives that currently exist? So the database of fishers that exist that would be eligible for compensation during any kind of fishing ban or during, any such conservation measures, the database is outdated. And at the same time, more specifically, the fact that who is eligible for social protection, there's a very narrow definition of what a fisher is. At the moment, it's a fisherman, and it has the current definition excludes women and informal workers. And in this whole, value chain, there's other workers. There's, boat owners, people who mend the nets, post-processing, and a lot of these get excluded when we look at the current database and how you define who is eligible, can get access incentives. And then secondly, even with the incentives that is available, which is at the moment around 40 kg of rice is given to fishing a household. So that level of compensation is not really adequate. You might have, families that are of 2 members to more than 8 members. And at the same time, just getting rice is not sufficient. They need other resources such as oil, salt. So we looked at, the adequacy of the current compensation that exists. And at the same time, these when you don't consider some of the already existing structural vulnerabilities. So, for example, at the moment, there's the middleman. So our fishers, they go into debt. They take loans from middlemen, and then they go out. And so they go into further debt when there's a fishing ban because, they're already not, there's poor market linkages. So they're not really connected to the markets. And then they have to take informal loans. They can't access formal financing. So when you're not addressing some of these existing structural vulnerabilities, and then the current incentive then is not adequate. And thirdly, as I mentioned, Bangladesh is, highly vulnerable to climatic impacts, increased cyclones, extreme weather conditions, and the fishers are now more at risk when they go out to sea. And so there's no climate responsive safety nets that is currently in place that are linked to these incentives. And thirdly, the overall coordination of the different departments and government bodies that are, in charge of fisheries management, social protection, conservation. They're fragmented, and as we looked at all the, Annabelle talked about the framework. We looked at the different stakeholders, looked at the mapping of who's in charge, who's able to cover what. There's a lot of fragmentation, and there's poor integration with existing social protection systems, especially the life cycle based social protection packages which exist, which are not part of the in fisheries management and conservation. And lastly, there's a lot of the programs that do exist around, giving, conditional cash or livelihoods diversification or alternate livelihoods training. These are all very program, project, donor driven and temporary. So, they once they're over, that thing, it finishes. So these are the challenges. Next slide. So when we try to, look at those challenges, both at the temporal and spatial scale, because what we see that there's also at the moment opportunities that can help drive forward on how we address these challenges. At the moment, there's two very important legislations. One is the revision of the National Fisheries Policy, which a version of it is out, and we're now just getting feedback from different actors and stakeholders on, on the version that currently exists, but it's not officially out yet. And then also there's the revision of the National Social Security Strategy in 2026. So what we see, these are opportunities to feed back on, some of our findings and recommendations from the work we've been doing the past 1 year, and see how we can feed into the overall government, particularly these two policies and strategy. At the same time, there's other institutional readiness that's happening. So having a single registry with monitoring information systems, where you have a more the inclusion criteria for who would be eligible would be improved. There'd be less duplication. There'd be less missing data. So, and then one of the things we have been doing is strengthening, existing work. So the momentum has been building with the Ministry of Fisheries and Livestock, particularly in a few areas, which I'll talk about in the next slides. And lastly, with, I mentioned a lot of development projects and partners are also working in the same space, in this space, coastal Bangladesh, where they're looking at what kind of climate resilient jobs, or how do you reduce those risks from climate vulnerability. So you have international players, FCDO, EU, World Bank. They're also looking at. So then they're looking at how do you collaborate and better to include fishers who are also part of the same ecosystem, but under their projects and mandate around mitigation of climate risk vulnerabilities. So these opportunities are ones that we are picking up on as we try and address challenges and see a path forward. Next slide. Again, here we just recently published a policy brief from the work we've been doing. It's available online on strengthening incentives for coastal stewardship in Bangladesh. And here we, highlight some key policy pointers, which is drawn around the three types of challenges that I identified earlier, which is on improving access and inclusion. So at the moment, I mentioned in the new fisheries policy, there is work going around the redefinition of fisherman. It's still, contested on, so there's things around who is a fisher. Is it someone, how many hours they fish, which again, comes up other issues, whether they have a national ID with there. So there's all kinds of different partners are working working together on redefining a fisher. So that includes women, informal workers, and others. And at the same time, we're also looking at how do you develop a more unified and dynamic database. And again, work is going on here with different departments, with the IT department, with fisheries, Department of Fisheries. So those are two of the areas that help improve the access and inclusion of fishers under social protection. As I mentioned, the adequacy, how do you increase the level and diversify incentives? So again, through the different conversations and interviews and work we did with fishers and other stakeholders in introductions of cash transfers, which again has been successful in other areas of work in Bangladesh, in urban poverty, in education. So, can we introduce these, within the social protection and fisheries management as well? Expanding microcredit and revolving funds for women-led cooperatives. Again, we've seen success of this in other area. So we're speaking to Women's Affairs, and there's already existing social protection schemes that apply to just to women, where they can take a loan, where they can take access to funds and start small businesses. So how do we bring that into one place, and so that fishers, it can be tied with social protection and incentives for coastal conservation. And the other opportunity has been in microinsurance, which again has seen some small successes with farmers in agriculture. So, can it also be, can we work with the banks and the private institutions to see if this can also be applied to fishers as well? The bigger, the wider picture on strengthening coordination. So again, we're looking to establish an interministerial task force, that can bring in social protection, conservation, and fisheries, so that we can better align between incentives and national social protections. And lastly, again, as I mentioned, the blue economy is also, a very important, growing important sector in Bangladesh. So how do we leverage some of that blue economy and climate finance for building more resilient fishing communities? So next slide. So how we're taking forward some of these recommendations that I listed here. We've developed an action plan and strategy to advocate for these recommendations. Some of the outputs, the policy brief that I just mentioned earlier, that's available. We've also had a dissemination and an event to share this policy brief with various different stakeholders across fisheries, conservation, social protections, women's affairs, a fishers association, but this has been at the national level. Now we're trying to make a translated Bangla infographic version of this policy brief with the pointers and way forward, so that we can then disseminate at the local Upazila level as well. So this month we're going to 3 different local district level to share these findings and see what can be done to work with strengthen local governance. We on World Fisheries Days, we just had an email campaign again, where we're trying to build up on what we're doing, what others are doing in this space, and have that work towards that interministerial coordination and committee that we can take forward these recommendations into and implement them in action. And lastly, we're creating a short video which really to show the diversity of who is actually a fisher. It's not this fisherman that goes out fishing on a boat. So that's coming up. Some of the activities that we're also partaking in has been, looking at understanding the priorities of government, non-government stakeholders through one-on-one meetings, organizing multi-stakeholders exchanges, both at the national, as I mentioned, at the sub-district level as well, and identifying allies who are also working on this same agenda. So, for example, CNRS, Oxfam working on the fisher definition. Can we build up on what they're doing, add in what we have, and have a stronger, support for making these changes, participating in the national policy dialogues as well, existing work that the Fisheries and Livestock Ministry and others are doing, so that we can, rather than working in silos, we can bring it together and address these issues. So that's where we are now with the work we're doing, and yeah, happy to take any questions afterwards. Thank you.
Thank you, Samiya. Thank you, Julius and Annabelle, for your interventions. I'll stop sharing my screen now, and we can open up to questions. I hope, Sarah, we can see, I see a few questions here. It'll take me some time to go through them and get them to you. So maybe we can start with a sort of a more broader general question to Julius and Samiya. But you've talked about some of the main challenges and opportunities for integrating social protection in coastal conservation and fisheries management. Who do you see are some of the key players that you need to be engaging with in order to ensure the success of that integration? Yes, please go ahead.
So, yeah, absolutely. It's a really important question, because that's one of our recommendations, that, we need to bring these players together. So in the Bangladesh context, because so much work already has been going on, in social protection, social welfare, women's affairs, that, what we're trying to do is have the Department of Fisheries, Department of Environment, Climate Change and Forest work with the social welfare department. So here a number of players, and see how we can, and then the other one is the Blue Economy Cell, because, there's the when you talk about the climate resilient jobs, or when you talk about alternate livelihoods or financing, if we bring these players together, actors together, can try and, come up to a more unified way forward. So that's specific to Bangladesh.
Yeah, thank you. Julius, do you have any insights?
In the case of Zanzibar, I think it's very critical for the Ministry of Blue Economy and Fisheries to be able to take up the initiative and approach the ministry responsible for social welfare, because there's a starting point, which is the social security policy. And it does mention two key sectors, the farmers and the fishers, as some of the most vulnerable economic sectors. But the strategies that have been developed for the policies, some of them are applicable to the fisheries community, and the fisheries policy has actually taken them, but without reference to the social security policy. So they were developed independently of the social security policy. Actually, the fisheries policy does not acknowledge the social security policy, although some of the strategies, I think, were drawn from that. So I think we have shared our reports with the Blue Economy Ministry and the fisheries, and they're waiting for the validation workshop, so that they could use that as a starting point to engage the social security, social welfare department and other partners that are working on social security issues. Thank you.
Thank you. We've got some questions from the audience. This one is to Bangladesh. But to Samiya, how can incentive-based mechanisms be linked to fishing income to promote sustainable fisheries management? A little bit of a broad one.
So two ways that we're looking at how do we work with incentives for fishers. Sorry, the link to fishers livelihood.
Fishing income to promote.
No, absolutely. So, for example, in the second one, where we talk about adequate, adequate level of incentives within the social protection, one of the things we're looking at is diversifying livelihood options. So, during these lean periods, during the fishing ban, what else they could be doing? End of the day, what has happened, which we've seen is there's been training on alternate livelihoods given around, say, poultry rearing or goat rearing, but these fishers don't have land, right? So it's not very efficient linking them up with farmers, training on growing crops when they don't have access to land. So looking at what kind of jobs or what kind of temporary, skills, not temporary jobs or skills development that is applicable for fishers. And then at the same time, linking that up with, there's parallel work going on around climate resilient skills, training, and jobs. So, if these fishers would be eligible for those skills training, then that will, help them supplement their income during that time. And access to finance, like formal finance, so that, or with the cash transfers, they could look at other opportunities during these periods when there's the fishing ban. So those are specifically two ways we're looking to improve, their income.
Yeah, thank you. So this one is also to Bangladesh, and it's about phasing out these fish compensation schemes. So what strategies do you think Bangladesh could adopt to gradually phase out fisher compensation schemes while still ensuring the socioeconomic stability for fishing communities?
I don't think we're looking to phase out these compensation schemes. It's how to better integrate them so that these compensation schemes are there, as part of the wider, social protection, that social, I think Annabelle mentioned the different types of social protection we're looking at, whether it's, informal or formal, or like social services, or, a direct economic incentive. So we want to see how it can be linked better so that you're not really trying to create anything new. We're just trying to link fishers' socioeconomic condition to existing compensation schemes. So more better alignment rather than phase out is kind of what we're working towards.
Okay, good, thank you. We've got a sort of request for knowledge here, and I'm going to open the question to Annabelle as well. Please feel free to jump in if you've got some insights. But this question is on whether there has been any work on how access to social protection has led to changed behaviors around risk. So, for example, need or willingness to go fishing in difficult weather. So, Julius, Samiya, or Annabelle, please feel free to jump in. Please go ahead.
Sure, I can jump in. So there's evidence to show that it has worked, that there is, can you repeat the question again? So
whether there has been any work undertaken on how access to social protection has led to changed behaviors around risk.
Yeah. So around risk, that's another piece of work we're trying to gather this evidence. How effective are these compositions for changing behavior? And we've seen a few case studies where working with a specific village of fishermen, but the evidence is still very poor to link up, at least in Bangladesh, because as I said, these schemes are nationwide, but then we have been looking at behavioral change in a certain area. So from within those case studies, we've seen some evidence of fishers taking less risks, or complying with the during the ban and others. But I would say we definitely need further, more robust evidence to actually come to any conclusion around that. There is a lot of work that's going on looking at more wider, like increase in Hilsha population, linked to the fishing ban per se, but how much of that is linked to fishers complying because of incentives? That is still well evidenced.
Yeah, thank you. Anything to add, Annabelle or Julius?
I can just quickly jump in. I think the question was was quite specifically about like social risks, if I understood. So for example, the risks from bad weather. There has been, I think, a lot of work on how social protection can play a role in that. Our work has been much more specifically focused on designing and adapting social protection to encourage stewardship actions. So I don't have any kind of country examples top of mind, but I think there are lots out there.
Yeah, thank you. Julius, did you have something to add?
No, not at the moment.
No. We've got another question. I think it's very specific, but it's with regards to the specific fisheries that you're working in Bangladesh and Zanzibar. But which distribution chains are you working with specifically? Are they fishers, processors, traders, marketers, fishers only, or across the entire value chain?
Well, in Bangladesh, we're working with the fishers, but recognizing that the reason we're working with fishers is because at the moment, this social protection scheme that we're working with applies only to, just the fishers, not the fish processors, not the other actors in the value chain. But we are recommending and way forward is, they need to be included, within this as well. So, but it just because of how the scheme is set out at the moment, it's just with fishers.
Yeah. There's a question. Sorry, please go ahead.
We are working across the whole value chain. So we are including processors and traders.
Very good. There's a question for Zanzibar. So Julius, in Zanzibar, there are well-established community-based governance structures, such as the Shahia Fisheries Committees and collaborative management groups. How can social protection programs better support the stewardship of fisheries and marine resources?
I think, in my opinion, social security have a major role to play in strengthening the community-based organization, particularly first in relation to improvement of enforcement of bylaws that are developed at either the beach management unit level or at the Shahia level, the community level. Enforcement is a big issue. So having social security, particularly in relation to cash transfers or on meeting certain agreed management outcomes, that can really improve the performance of these community-based structures, and this is coming out very clearly in the reef closure systems that have been in operation for a few years now. And we are seeing the compliance increasing significantly because of the enforcement capability that has been strengthened through the strengthen enforcement. Then there's the issue of the livelihoods. The community does provide this community-based organs act as a link between the partners, non-government organizations, and also the central government and the communities in providing not only to be able to monitor the introduction of new livelihood activities, but also to be able to ensure that they are meeting the requirement of the set by the government all development partners. There is some support provided in development of their livelihoods activities, and the communities are supposed to be also making some contribution. So these structures are playing that role of ensuring that the communities meets their end. So in my opinion, they were very important. The incentive-based have a very important role to play in strengthening this community-based organs. Thank you.
Thank you. We have another question in the chat. This is for Bangladesh. Given social protection has been used to incentivize sustainable fisheries management for a while in Bangladesh, are there lessons you could share that might be relevant to other countries considering similar programs?
Yeah, I believe so, because, as it is something that has been around in Bangladesh for 10 years now. There's definitely a lot of lessons and learnings that can be taken from that. And some of that, some of the key learnings that we found was, this lack of coordination between different actors, so different ministries, because and this might be applicable to other countries as well. We know where you have the development, poverty, looking at and different ways of social protection for the community, but then conservation and fisheries is completely done in silos. You're working with that same community, but coming in from different angles. And if we had better coordination of that, you're already being more effective and streamlining some of that. So really having those better, less fragmentation between different schemes within the country. And, some countries might have a stronger social safety net systems, but there's, and even within what we found was, from here that, when we spoke to Women's Affairs, there's so many schemes that women particularly would be eligible for. And here we're looking at, the fact that, fishers who are women are not even included in just even the existing compensation scheme. So, so definitely better integration of these mandates. And one of the ways I think hopefully this framework that we use to bring it together, so the mapping who are the actors, looking at existing frameworks, policies, and programs, but then under the umbrella of looking at equity or rights or the small scale fisheries mandates, and then you can start drawing out what already exists within different mandates that you can bring together. So that would be one of the definitely one of the key learnings I would say that will be applicable. Obviously, within Bangladesh, we have the context of definition of what is a fisher, and then like the specific compensation right now with being rice, it's relevant for Bangladesh, but then the cash transfers that works for in other areas would definitely we think would work here as well, and I believe would be applicable to many other such countries in the global south.
Yeah, thank you very much. So we have two more sort of broader questions that will go both to Samiya and Julius. And I know we had scheduled this webinar to go until 6 p.m. our time, so another half an hour from now, but we might not stay, depending on what the follow-up questions are, we might not stay that long. So we'll just go through the next two questions and see how we do. But for Julius and Samiya, do you anticipate any barriers to the uptake of the recommendations that you shared, and what would those barriers be? Julius, would you like to go first?
Thank you. I think there are a number of barriers. This is, although we are seeing in the blue economy policy, in the fisheries policy, in the disaster management policies, very clear strategies that are from the social security policy, but this is new. They were put there without actually the thinking was not actually towards developing as a formal social security system or recognizing them as a social security strategy. So they need quite a lot of work to more of a change of mindsets. That actually you already have a foundation. You need just to change the mindset and so that's one. Two. Already, some of the fishers are benefiting from the existing programs, but the fisheries had no system to actually monitor them and actually to make use of these fishers who are benefiting, who got to know the program on their own, not through the fisheries. So they need to be recognized and be integrated into the fisheries management system, and then build up from there. So that will need some effort. And third is how do you get the more fishers to also apply from the existing social security programs, small as they are, but many officials are not aware of them. Okay, so there is work to be done there. And fourth, I think is the issue of more. It needs a lot of resources. Currently, the existing social security budget is about 9% of the government budget, and that's quite. It may look significant, but it's quite a small amount of money. And now we are talking about expanding it fast. So we'll need the additional resources. And one of the aspects that we are also exploring is to have a system of from the fishers through cooperatives that are currently being encouraged. They were there before, then they collapsed, but now they are able to get the fishers to work through the cooperative. They can start small as it is, having a contributory system that may help them to access more benefits.
Thank you. Thank you for those insights. Samiya, please.
So, I mean, at the moment, Bangladesh is it's pretty much in transition. We had the government overthrown last year, and now we have interim government in place, and hopefully election next year. So, again, what we know, the recommendations we're putting forward, the what we're trying to implement right now, hopefully we create a roadmap or at least have the action plan endorsed by the current government or the people in place. That might all change again next year, but what we can do, what we're trying to do, is at least have the evidence and like a placeholder to say, whoever we can work with after elections, that there's something to go with. So we hope it won't, even if there's changes or there's things that are out of our control as far as the political space in the country, that we can still build on what we have already done. We have these very specific recommendations and the specific way forward action planning on how we can take this forward. So that's one way. We hope it won't be one of the challenges we're dealing with. The other one is, currently with blue economy, blue cell development, as much as we thought we could leverage that further, the direction that is taking with it has been in some ways more extractive, not so much taking into consideration some of the stakeholders like small scale fishers who are also part of this blue economy space. So a lot more work needs to happen on how do you address equity and inclusivity within this blue economy development, right? So so we really need to be watching that space as well, that we're not, the communities and the fishers that we are working with here are not completely left out of that picture going forward. And yeah, those are really two of the kind of current challenges. We hope with these two strategies and policies that are coming out this year and next year that we can hopefully in the right direction build up on that, rather than they, differing too much from what we're saying. So yeah, let's watch this space.
Yeah, thank you very much. There's one final question that is more about sort of looking forward. What change, and this is for both Julius and Samiya, what changes in policy, institutional coordination, or financing are most needed to scale social protection-based incentives for coastal stewardship? And how can funders and NGOs best support this work? It's a very big question.
Julius, did you want to go first? Okay. I'll say that's exactly what he said.
Yeah, I think the first step for Zanzibar is there've been a discussion in the as part of the implementation of the blue economy policy to establish stakeholders platforms. This is also provided for in the environment policies, provided for in the disaster management policy, and also in the fishery. I think it needs to be operationalized and bring in the new actors dealing with the social security issues. Such a platform would be very useful in introducing and discussing these issues. Because discussing them within the fisheries sector itself, or there's limitations. So I think it needs to be brought up in this multi-stakeholder platform, bearing in mind that there's quite a lot of non-state actors who are playing a very key role in social protection. So for me, that would be the first effort. The second is within in Tanzania, we have had major programs with the funding from the World Bank. These are grants, and I think a case can be built up in also including aspects that will at least initiate this social protection to support the fishers and see how they work for 3-5 years before so they can be piloted with funding from the World Bank. I think they provide a substantial amount of funding. Previously, the grants have been focusing mainly on infrastructure development, research. I think we need to go further and look at exploring a possibility of this type of funding also supporting piloting of social security, social protections, at least in some districts, and then expanding it further once we start getting experience of running them. So I think for me those will be some of the ideas going forth. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Samiya, do you have anything to add?
No, the first point about the multi-stakeholder, dialogue and having, it's again, one of our key recommendations to have this inter-ministerial task force. And the more we have this platform, I think, Julius is that is operational, then, we can start, looking at scaling, looking at improving, these leveraging social protection for fisheries management. But so, yeah, not to repeat again what he said, but absolutely that is one of the key things. The second thing for Bangladesh, because there is, as far as financing and looking at that ecosystem, there's a lot of work and financing and projects around in climate mitigation adaptation, right? And when we talk about those big, donor funded projects or government initiatives, the fishers, the community that we work with are in that space as well. So we should be looking at leveraging some of those. I mentioned the climate resilient jobs, the micro insurance for taking risks going out at sea. Other skills training that's happening in the just transition space. There's a lot of green skills programs within these coastal areas. That needs to be leveraged better. The climate financing, within the blue social protection and fisheries conservation and management as well.
Great. Thank you so much. I think we've covered all the questions that we have in the chat. Unless I missed any, Sarah, please shout them out if I've missed any in the chat. But we're coming to the end of the session, so I'd like to thank very much the speakers. We heard from Annabelle on Blue Social Protection, and we heard from Julius and Samiya on challenges, opportunities, and recommendations for incentive-based approaches in Zanzibar and Bangladesh, with some suggestions for ways forward. So I hope this was an interesting and informative learning and exchange webinar for everyone, and thank you all very much for joining.
Thank you for your time, everyone. We hope you gained something from today's discussion.
Have a nice day.
Bye-bye. Thank you.